still hot. Hell yeah, awesome. Welcome back to Stay Tuned. I'm Tony Angelo. We are back on my 1970 Gen 3 500 horsepower Hemi swap Dart. We're gonna do a whole bunch of work to this thing and get it that much closer to ripping down these PA roads. Let's go. So this is a $3,900 1970 Dart roller that I bought a few months ago. We've got a 6.4 crate Hemi in it out of like a 2016 Scat Pack Challenger, making near 500 horsepower. It's got a built-up 727 transmission in it, and last time we were working on this thing, we got the suspension and everything brakes, all that stuff dialed in. It's sitting under its own weight for the first time. So full QA1 suspension, lead brakes out front, a set of torque thrusts with some Mickey Thompson tires. We're throwing some real serious hardware at this thing because it's going to be just that gnarly. Out back, we've got this Speedway 9-inch that we assembled last time, fabricated the mounts on it. It's in here, it's happy, sitting flush, really 80s rake looking right. We've got a bunch more stuff to do. So we've got no exhaust in the car yet. It does not steer. We've got to make the brakes actually work. There's no master cylinder here, and we're going to get rocking. It's been kind of a crazy week here in the suburbs of Philadelphia. The Eagles beat the tar out of the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl 2 nights ago.
Eagles fly in Super Bowl 59.
So it's been just, the energy here is wild. A lot of chants, a lot of screaming at the Wawa when you go in and get your coffee in the morning. There's a parade coming up. We're trying to stay focused here, but it's just, you should know, it's been crazy. So I bought a pretty standard aluminum kind of racy manual steering gearbox for this thing for 50 bucks off a local guy. And once we finally hooked it up, I was able to turn the wheel and you can probably hear it. It just feels like there's a bunch of gravel in it. So we'll have to deal with that first. Dig in. The spline on top of it won't connect to the power steering column we have anyway. So we're gonna dig in and try to get that thing working first. Obviously the car's gotta steer. It's gonna make a whole bunch of power. I don't want it to be, impossible to steer, fight me the whole time. It's gonna be a little bit extra terrifying. So let's start there. I think it wouldn't really move at all at first.
I couldn't. Broke it free a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely got broke free. I'm assuming it was put away kind of straight, all the grease is out of it. Maybe it corroded between the, like the gears while it was sitting, and now, especially on center, is the worst of it. So, also sounds pretty gross and dry. So we're gonna dig into that first and figure it out. All right, so that is the steering gearbox. I'm gonna try to take this cover plate off. It's got 3 bolts. This is some kind of preload adjuster where you can take the slop out of a manual steering box. Generally, you don't have to mess with them too much, but it can make a big difference. This bolt is finger tight. That's not a great sign. That one is real tight. There's not a lot of access in here. It's all right. I'm not gonna complain about it. I'm not Patrick Mahomes complaining to the refs about things that didn't happen.
Woo!
What? What? I mean, maybe we can just, I guess, clean out whatever we can clean out, add a bunch of grease and see what it does. All right, so it's packed full of grease.
What's the vintage on that grease?
Oh boy. It's older than you are for sure. It looks gross, as it should. It's packed full. All right, I did get the top off here. It does seem to have loosened up quite a bit. I'm going to just put this cover back on and get to fabbing up the steering column stuff we need to. If we have to later, if it doesn't feel good, we can come back and either squirt some CV grease in here or take the whole thing apart. But right now it seems to be better. It does look like there's a ton of pretty fresh grease in it, so I think it was just probably sitting too long in one spot and just had to get broke free and warmed up. So now, since we're converting this car from power steering to manual, we have to talk about connecting the steering column itself. So Mopars have this kind of wonky box coupler thing. If I can get it apart, it has these lugs on a shaft with the pin that goes through, and there's a seal and this clamp. It's bulky. It won't fit with our headers no matter what, and we want to get rid of it anyway because it just always kind of comes apart and has a bunch of play in it. So we're just going to run this Borgenson unit. This is part number 013464. As you can see, the spline is different, which is something we need anyway. That's a power steering box. That's a manual box. So with our header set up, and you can see how giant this motor is, we're going to put this, I can't get my hands in here, but Barb's going to put this on there, and then we will figure out how to connect the two. Just probably chop it up and weld it to a piece of tube. There she is. So we will probably have to extend this, but I think let's get it in the car and see how far out it comes.
I agree.
Maybe we'll get lucky and we can just weld that piece to this piece.
That'd be tight.
Let's take this off too. You know, it's just going to be in our way. That's the old shifter. Roll it. There you go.
Okay.
All right, now we got to knock this pin out anyway. All right, that works. I'll just give that a quick clean up. Look at that.
Well, that happened.
Yeah.
That bin is not what it used to be, huh?
Yikes. Punch right through there. All right, cool.
Anything for the shot.
I love it.
There you go.
This junk over here, and we're good.
Alright, so I'm going to slide this Borgenson U-joint over the steering shaft on the box here. Like that. And then from this end here, where my thumb is, we'll connect that direction towards the steering shaft.
So, right there, that is that Borgenson coupler. You can see it's pretty much right in the middle of the factory opening, so it shouldn't be too hard to get to it. We're just gonna have to make it couple up real nice. All right, so we've got our kind of stripped down column into place here. It just clears the valve cover, which is great, and it is pretty well centered and in line with that Borgenson coupler piece. It is unfortunately 3 inches short or so. No big deal. Could happen to anybody. We will come up with some kind of extension and go from there. It's a weld-on piece, so we will get a piece of tube that goes in there and maybe sleeve this end, and we'll be fine. So we've got like a 120 wall, 3/4 inch. This is gonna go into the Borgenson coupler. We've got a sleeve that fits on nicely. Cut it, weld this to the Mopar piece, weld this to the little extension, and we should be in business. Anytime you do this, number one, make sure it's nice and strong, and number two, make sure it's nice and straight, or it'll kind of dance around when you turn the wheel. You don't want that.
I'm gonna whisk this off real quick, get that nice and flat.
All right, go whiz it off, champ. Man, it's weird to have your microphone right in your headphones.
Yeah.
So this giant disc grinder that I have, this is U.S. Army surplus that I got from an auction. A lot of the stuff I got from auctions of old industrial buildings. Closing down. I think that's a 1 horsepower motor, single phase, 110, but it is a pretty beast unit on a cool stand. I think I got it for 200 bucks or so. Hit it.
Hitting it, baby.
Do it.
Oh.
I keep looking right at it.
It's impossible not to sometimes.
All right, so Gorf. So here's the sleeve and the extension we've got going on here. This is that universal that came off of the steering box. I'm just gonna tap it in until it's fully seated. So it's in there, probably 7/16.
Going in?
Yeah, it's perfect. I don't know. We'll get a quick measurement of it, but I think that looks really good. We were 2 3/4. So this is gonna be great. Let me just grab that.
All right, so we got this thing all welded up in here, and I am going to drill a hole through the top and the bottom so we can do some rosette welds, plug welds, also called. We can do some plug welds, also called rosette welds, also called whatever you want to call them. The hole in the tube welds.
Rosette is fancier. I like it.
You like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we're going to make some rosette welds. That's what I always call them.
Sounds like a pizza sauce. I'm in.
It's like slicing through a piece of butter. This thing is the best. There it is. So we're going to put these holes opposite those. Boom. That was very satisfying.
Oh, the sound alone.
You want that again?
Oh, yeah. Good thock.
Good thock.
You know, pretty cool little unit right there.
Yeah, I like this. All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm just holding the camera. You do it. She is all dialed.
Okay. Painted black. Put it back.
Yep. OEM plus right there, boy. All right, our custom adapter extension steering column actually fits fantastic. It's in there. Set screw's got some Loctite on it. You can see it clears the header, it clears the valve cover, it clears everything we need it to. I've got the inside of the car all done. And we've got steering for the first time. I'm gonna put it up and give it a good spin. Feels good. All the droop in the world for when this thing's doing wheelies down the track. Excuse me, weight transferring. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh yeah. That feels great. It doesn't even make any sound anymore. You hear it?
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's done. Car steers, awesome. Man. All right, it's a whole new day here. We spent all of yesterday getting the steering working, but it works beautifully. The box feels a ton better, and it feels really smooth. Really slow manual box, but that's just the style of it. It is working killer. So I'm gonna come over to the list here. Boom, steering. That was a big one. You know, there was a lot of unknown in there, but we got it handled. I think we're gonna next jump on the brakes. I'd like to get a lot of stuff done under the car so I can feel like, oh, we're done, put it down and keep rocking. So we've got to do brakes. We have all 4 calipers and discs mounted, but there's no lines, no hoses, no master cylinder, no prop valve. So we'll just get rocking there. Hopefully pretty soon we can have a fully working brake system. That'll be awesome. Let's do it. Go Birds. Sweet. All right, so I'm gonna start installing this lead dual circuit manual master cylinder. We're keeping this car very street strip style, no comforts, manual brakes, manual steering, you know, real old school vibes. We don't need anybody working our brakes or steering for us. I'll just stomp on it harder. No big deal. So we don't have the stock push rod set up. Will Wood makes this kit. We picked this up from Speedway Motors. It's part number 330-13914. And it will fit any car depending on whatever kind of little system you figure out here. So we've got a clevis set up, a big eyelet setup, some push pins, anything and everything can be made out of this kit, which is great because sometimes those things are hard to find. So I believe the Dodge just bolts in from the side, but you know.
It does.
It does, right?
I just looked. So the pedal is offset in the car
pedal's offset,
to
so
the
this
left,
bolt in.
to the right side of the pedal. Yep.
Right. They also give you some pretty common eyelet to 3/8, and you got to figure out how long it is too. Some lock washers. And what's fun is there'll be all sorts of weird stuff left over to throw in your junk drawer. You know, I'll need this one day thing.
And then in like 6 months, you'll be like,
Where'd
you put that thing?
Grab the quick measurement, just eyeballed it. I think this will be the setup that works for the Dodge. And we will keep on rocking. So I think, I don't know, what's the size of the post coming, or how big is the hole coming through the pedal? There may be.
Big-ish, like a 1/2 inch, 5/8, something like that.
Is there a shank bolt in it, or no?
No,
Nothing,
it's
right?
just a through hole.
All right, we'll figure it out. See how open that is in there.
Should be that.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, slide it on in.
Yes, sir.
Hang on.
Maybe we cut a gasket for this too. Is there one with it?
All right, so this is smaller. This is like a 7/16 maybe in the pedal.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So it's a 7/16 rib nut.
Okay.
Cut a little bit off.
Yep.
Perfect. It's a snug fit on that. It's a snug fit in here.
We're going to use this or no?
Keeps the plastic, keeps it isolated. Should be good.
Yeah, this will rotate in there.
It's like perfect. If there's a tiny bit of clearance, it's like perfect.
Beauty. Beauty. All right. Send it.
I'm
You're going to cut off the sleeve?
I'm going to literally just cut off a little bit just so that the pedal.
Yeah, it has a little bit of clearance.
Yep.
But I'm saying, where are the threads? On the bottom or the top? Do you want the threads or do you not want the threads? You do want the threads.
It's not going to hurt me either way.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm only cutting off enough to put a nut on the end.
We have to go
And a
through
washer.
the pedal.
Through the pedal.
Yeah. Cool. Love it. So, one of the things we're trying to do is be a little more complete with the car, spend a little bit more time on stuff and not rush through everything. When I lay that master cylinder on here, there's a giant gap and a hole because of the way that this hole is cut in the factory, and there's a divot in the casting of the master cylinder. That means, like, you know, technically it's like a fire hazard, so the firewall would be incomplete, but also it would smell and exhaust would probably wind up in there. So I'm going to take 2 seconds and make myself a little cover panel so that it kind of seals all that junk out. I'm just going to use a sheet of aluminum we have. I think it's 20 gauge. What I should have done was drilled the holes before I made it a tiny piece. But we're going to try to fight through it anyway. If you do it on, like, when it's a 1 foot by 2 foot square, it's a lot easier to drill through. But we'll figure it out.
While Tony's building that closeout plate for the firewall, for the master cylinder opening, I am going to bench bleed this master cylinder, which is super easy. The guys from Leeds send over the adapters and the hoses. Basically, they're just plastic pieces with a little nipple on them that thread into the ports on the master cylinder. Hoses run into each one of the chambers of the master cylinder. Yeah, so you fill them with fluid and you slowly pump the push rod on here until you get no bubbles. So you can see the ports in the bottom of the master cylinder here and here through the passageway through the center. Yep. and it's pumping the fluid out these fittings through the hose and back into the reservoir. So the idea is you want to pump this until you don't get bubbles in your line anymore.
Oh.
All right, so we're looking good here. I'm going to take these lines off of here and make a little bit of a mess, and then put these plastic caps in that Lead gives you. Put the cover on it. This thing will be fully bled. Then we can bolt it into the car, and we're ready to put the lines on. Just take the plastic caps off. It'll dribble a little bit out of here, but nothing crazy.
Nailed it. I just actually clamped this in a vise and drilled it by hand. I'm gonna see how it fits. Pretty dang good. I'm gonna drill the center hole for the push rod to go through, and that'll be done.
Is that aluminiums?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Nice job.
Yep. All right, I've got my little block off plate installed there. That is my second favorite plate, next to the one that's gonna come soon full of pizza. Gonna hand in the master cylinder to Barb.
Stop. There, pull it out slightly.
Yes.
Half inch. Yep. Stop.
What's Barb doing in there?
I don't know, goofing around. He's gonna connect this push rod to the hole in the side of the brake pedal, and then we'll have a brake pedal that works. All right, so we've got the master cylinder all bolted in, looking plenty sturdy. Now we've got to make brake lines. There are no brake lines in this entire car, and we forgot to mount the hoses for the rear brake caliper, so we've got to basically start from scratch. We have an inline prop valve that we got from
Lead brakes.
Lead brakes, just a straight in and out. So the way it can work on like a race car style brakes, the front brakes are just going to go to a T, and that hard line will go to each corner, and the rear brake will just be straight in line, in and out with this adjustable prop valve. So if you have different size calipers, front to rear, or different size circuits in your master cylinder, or the weight balance of the car is crazy, all that stuff gets figured out in a stock car and dialed into your prop valve that comes with the car. But when you start making huge changes, it's really easy just to grab an adjustable one and dial it in as you want it. So that's what we're doing. This is the surefire way to get these things to work. Barbie's gonna start mounting this sucker up. I'm gonna go in the back and weld the tabs on for the brake hoses we need for the back. Let's rock. So because these are sliding calipers that move, you have to run a brake hose on each corner, on each end of the rear end. And that's what I'm just gonna do here. Thread these in. And then we'll still have to have a brake hose between the rear end and the body of the car. So it'll have 3 hoses on it. I'm just gonna find a place to mount these that are kind of out of the way, but still will allow enough room for it to move. Something like that would be fine. So I'm gonna come in with a tab, and I'm gonna weld this so that there is a place for the hard line to meet up with this brake hose. And again, give it that movement. So right here looks pretty great. Barb said it looks beautiful, but he's got a potty mouth.
Yeah.
Look, man, don't let that polo vest fool you. My guys,
It looks
grimy as they come.
beautiful. What do you want from me?
I love it. Yes, when the pizza gets here, all work stops. We have a beautiful half pepperoni pie today, some wings, and a cheesesteak, just to keep it very real. As you know, Stay Tuned is a pizza team with a racing problem. If you want to buy us a pie, which you don't have to, you can. There is a link in the video up here somewhere.
Right there, dude. That's exactly
So
right.
feel free to do it. We appreciate it. All right. This pizza was donated by Michael Gaines. We appreciate you, buddy. And we are going to dig in and then keep on rocking. Look at these wings. Look at that.
Those look real good.
Yeah.
My doctor's
right.
going to hate me after this
That's right.
one.
Your doctor's going to love it.
Down the hatch.
Unless it's your dad, of course.
Nah, he does watch.
Good. Wings are
Give me the camera and get a
fire,
slice.
dude. The wings are so good.
All right. Guy's been starving for hours.
Baby. That's mine. That's mine.
You got that. That's good. I'll do.
This guy knows. All right, so I made a couple of aluminum standoffs here out of some 1/4-inch thick aluminum. Drilled some holes in here that are the same bolt spacing as our distribution block. And I'm gonna put a couple of riv nuts right into the inner fender pan right here. And then I'm gonna make a line that goes like this with a loop. Actually, it's gonna go the other way in a loop right into the top here. And then we'll have the other one come out the bottom, go down the back. Oh yeah, look at that. That actually did it. Yep, that's one. Yep, that's two. Okay. Now I'll go inside the fender and drill them to the hole size we need.
Satisfying. Well, you really pulled it back fast.
That was quick.
That was crazy. On a file or something.
I'm just checking to make sure the bolts go through.
Well, if you want to look at a good example of nailing the bolt spacing, just look at that master cylinder.
I saw
plate
that.
right
It looked
there,
great.
boy.
It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing you did there.
That's my 4th one. I made the rest off camera. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Or am I?
Pretty nice.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty solid. I'm excited about this thing. 500 horsepower. Darts, A-bodies are surprisingly light. I bet this thing...
I looked it up the other day.
3,000?
It was like 3150, I
Yeah.
think, with a big block in it.
Yep.
Or not a big block, with a
340.
340, yeah, small block.
Yeah,
Big
it'll be
block.
right around, if we don't put any extra junk in here, I think we'll be right around 3,100 pounds without me in it, and that is pretty light. You know, think about the Corvette. The Corvette's got 500 horsepower, probably 410 at the tires, and it's 3,400, 33,
That thing's a hot ripper.
and that thing moves, so this will be even quicker. Love it.
I love them.
All right, front one. That's good, front one, tighten her down. Oh, it's like that, okay, got it. I didn't know there was a machine involved.
Got it?
Go ahead, yep.
Good.
Okay, that's good.
Beautiful. Perfect, dude.
You almost re-blackened your thumb there.
Yeah, I know, it's terrible. Holding an Allen wrench, all of a sudden it tries to jump out of my hands.
Perfect. All right, cool. So we got the proportioning valve mounted to the inner fender pan here. And I'm going to now connect the rear brake line to the port on the proportioning valve. We're going to put a big loop in line here because we realize we'll probably have to move the master cylinder out of the way to be able to change spark plugs because this coil pack has to come out quite a bit. So I'm going to make this line come out here, put a big loop in it, and then come into here. That way there's some flexion in the lines. And then we'll do the same thing for the rear one going down. And hopefully that should allow us enough movement. Or we'll just, leave the spark plugs in. All right, let's make some lines. Here we go. All right, I'm about to use probably my favorite tool in the shop here. This is our Eastwood brake flaring tool. I've never had good luck with traditional brake flaring tools. Would you agree this is probably one of your favorites? This tool?
What?
This tool.
You're my favorite tool.
Ho ho!
Said you're my favorite.
You see how I get treated here? Just kidding.
No,
Yeah.
Those are great. That is a great, if you've ever used the old wonky ones that clamp together.
Don't
they're-
anymore.
That thing's sick.
So very simple. Clamp the line down, slide it forward against your base. Now you're at 0. Spin it. Operation 1. Operation 2.
Can you tell them how we got that brake line? Barb ordered this stuff online. This is for lifetime. And
For
it's
a lifetime.
We try to save some bucks here. So Barb
Honestly,
ordered this
this
puppy
is like
online.
one of the best hacks in brake lines, I feel. You go to the parts store, those pre-made ones, they're like $8 to $15 a piece.
Yeah.
This roll of 25 feet of line and an entire bag of fittings is $28 on Amazon.
There you go.
And it's super easy to work with.
Yeah, they got to use the copper blend stuff.
Yeah.
It's so good. The copper alloy, as opposed to like a stainless line, is so much easier to bend and so much easier to form.
There's gonna be a lot of guys that say the stainless line is better.
You got to have that stainless line. Yeah.
No. If your car is submerged in water all the time.
Sure, or if like, you know, it's like a forever project
Yeah.
or something.
What are you trying to say?
I told you, this car's here for a good time, not a long time.
So I've got my little assortment of bending tools here. I have an actual bending tool. And then I have the oil priming tool for a small block Chevy. But it has a really nice radius on it if you're trying to go tighter with your line. I like to use this for brake lines because it's the perfect radius. Get a nice tight bend in there. Tricks of the trade, baby. All right. Ooh, I have another cool tool. All right, so I measured roughly 14 inches, give or take a little bit, mostly give, that we're gonna need for this line. I'm gonna cut it here. I'm gonna show you another tool, another one of my favorites. This is not it. So, this comes in a spool, right? How are you gonna get it straight? How about 16 wheels and a piece of plastic? Another one of my favorite Amazon tools. They sell these in basically any size for any diameter tubing.
You're getting the plumber.
You get a perfectly straight brake line. All right, here we go.
All right, I am zapping in these brake brackets, these holders for the brake lines. I've got my welding blanket over the rotor because you do not want to get hot splatter on there. And I'm going to send it. All right, rock and roll. I will hit those with a little paint, and then we will put the hoses in and make the hard lines. Rocking and rolling. Feeling good. Feeling good. All right, Barb's got that rear subline going to the prop valve all done. I made the front line. It's going to go down to this T, and then this will go to the left brake. This will go along the K-member to the front brake, and the fronts are all done. So he's going to lay that in. I use the same pieces he did to make that same kind of loop in here. That's going to let us yank that sucker out and actually change the spark plugs in this thing. A lot of factory cars have a big loop in them anyway, because if the car gets hit, it won't come, it won't, you know, essentially like the brake lines won't explode and cause a potential fire and stuff. So I feel like it's kind of a cool look and it makes sense. It's also got like a little, you know, since it's copper, it's like a little steampunky,
I like it.
you know?
I'm into it, dude.
Just throw that anywhere.
It's fine.
It'll melt away.
I'll get it.
Looks awesome. All right, so one line down, tight bend, up and over, and one super long, annoying one. All right, so I've got my brake hoses for each caliper in those mounts. It looks really good. Now I have to make hard lines to a T, and then there's gonna be a brake hose that jumps over and basically connects the rear end to the chassis. Now factory, this is just a straight line, but there's a bunch of factory lines that have the T integrated. I'm gonna use this one. This is off like a W series Dodge truck, 76 to 81 or so. I just read about it. We bought this for Barb's D100 and it was just laying around. So I'm gonna use this. It's a little bit on the long side, but again, what's nice is it has the integrated T here. It's just one less thing to deal with and go bad. So I like them. They're a little bit extra clean. I know there's some, I think some GM Camaros and stuff that have it built into. But I'm gonna run this one because it's, second gen F body has it, right? I'm gonna run this one because it's what I have in my hand and we had it laying around.
So I've got the last line going right now that goes above the bell housing. It's going to connect to the passenger side brake over here, and then we'll be done. We got all the stuff on the driver's side connected. Tony's about wrapped up in the back. I'm just making the last line now. We should be good to go.
All right, Barb took off for the night. There's 2 more brake lines left to do. I don't feel like doing them. My ADD says, let's start a new task. We are gonna throw on the Hooker Blackheart specific A-body Mopar Gen 3 Hemi swap exhaust system we've got here. It's awesome, full stainless, 2 different types of tailpipes, plenty of flow for 500 NA horsepower, and I'm sure it's going to fit great. Tons of brackets. It uses all sorts of factory points. It is set up for a set of long tubes, so we'll have to make the mid pipes, but it should be no big deal. Let's get rocking. Come on in. So Barb has taken off for the night, but Mike Kuntz is going to step in. He's normally behind the camera. He's coming out here to turn some wrenches and have some fun.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and you've never touched a car before in your life.
Not a car, no.
That's yes, perfect,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep, we'll figure it out.
No, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He's built a thing or two. He actually has a kind of like street freak C10 with a chopped roof and a big block that we're working on, maybe getting in here at some point.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that soon. All right, these exhausts are awesome when they're pre-made, but the big thing with them is getting everything sort of held up into position so you can sort of fit it all and then start making adjustments. So I think we should,
You want the pole jack?
yeah, let's get the pole jack
Where
and
is that?
probably a couple of straps that go across the car. It's super helpful to have a lift for this. I don't know if you're gonna put it down and point it up or.
Get this out of the way.
I'll get the pole jack in here. I've got the lift all the way up and it's screaming top just for you.
Is that all the way?
That's it. That is like off the locks, crying, just
We'll make it work.
doing its best. Cool. All right. So normally, if you had the right headers for this kit, which for this car is part number BH23108, you would just put the header pipes on and then start laying in and work your way back. Now we can't exactly do that. We're going to start at the X pipe, kind of fit the mufflers, the tailpipes, everything, get everything where we think it's going to fit, make it happy, and then we'll make these little down pipes we're going to have to make. Man, I'm definitely wishing we had these sweet long tubes because it would just all bolt up. But we don't have them, so we're going to make it work. All right, so they use, which a lot of companies do, a longer 7/16 seatbelt bolt. You run it through your seatbelts. They will stick out far enough into the bottom of the car that you can use these as muffler hangers when you do dual exhaust. It's pretty straightforward. Just got to find the hole here. I don't feel like yamming the seat out and zip it in. Barb already came in here this week. He seam sealed the floor patches and painted it all black. It looks better than it did before. So you can see there's a little bit of a buckle here. I feel like this car is pretty square, the frame rails and stuff, but I don't know if this was hitting the floor or whacked over at some point. We are going to ignore that as hard as we can and put this thing back together. Okay, cool. They give you these cool bolt-up tailpipe hangers. Pretty substantial little setup. All you do is measure forward, line this thing up on the frame rail, make sure the bolt is just in line with it, and it says to go from the edge of this hole, which is a little bit ripped, but I'm eyeballing it. 2 1/4, 3 1/8. Yeah, that looks good. I got these punched, and now I'm doing my least favorite thing. Next to welding overhead, drilling overhead. It's a brand new bit. What's going on here, gentlemen? Start. Do something for me here. If you guys have tool tips for me, I'm looking for a set of drill bits that work over and over. I'm going to pre-drill this with a smaller bit. hot metal in my teeth. And then I'll open them up with the other ones. Because we already lost the 13/64ths out of this set. Ah! Woo! Still hot. It's still hot. It's still in there. Yeah. Feel it on my neck. Great. Could you rip these in with self-tappers? Yes. Hooker tells you not to. So we're not doing it. They have a self-tapping bolt. Cool. All right. Holes are drilled. Zip these self-tapping screws in. Plus Loctite. That's in there forever. Awesome. All right, now we will throw on the tailpipes and start working our way forward. All right, so we have the entire back half of the exhaust sitting up there happily. It fits. Awesome. Barb is back. He can't stay away. And we are going to start working forward. These are the pipes that would go to the long tube headers we wish we had. And we will cut them off the front and go up to our 2.5-inch 2-bolt flanges from these shorty headers. So let's get rocking. I'm gonna start cutting. All right, we are kind of burning the midnight oil here. I know we said we weren't going to do it all the time, but, you know.
We're not doing it all the time. We're just
What?
doing it sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. Look, I want to get to the Eagles Parade Friday and see somebody fist fight a police horse. And we can't do that unless we get this done. Okay? It's all in good fun.
Ready?
Never better.
Okay.
I got her.
Hot potatoes.
Ah! Ha, ha, ha!
I welded there.
Do you know that welds are mostly warm? They do a good job of heating up.
Ready?
From the glove. Yeah.
Oh, right through. Oh.
Try to touch the ground or something.
I'm like, nothing's happening.
Right through the glove.
Good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right.
Just smell.
I'm going to...
Smells like that crispy bacon we were talking about last week.
At a half.
Yeah.
Half from the top would be 8 inches.
Okay. All right, she's all tacked up. We're gonna drop it down, blast some beads around it, and hit sec. Exhaust, finished.
All right, it's a whole new day at the shop. I am going to button up a couple of things here while Tony is going to pick up the drive shaft that we had made at Hartman Drive Shaft. I'm going to button up a couple of other small things, maybe put the carpet in, just trying to get this thing jamming along so when he gets back we can start bleeding the brakes.
All right, I just showed up with the drive shaft from Hartman Drive Shafts in Reading, Pennsylvania, fresh off the machines. We're going to test fit this sucker. Just because Brandon there said sometimes the 727s can be a little wonky. They have this super long yoke in them. He expects it to fully bottom out and then pull out, but it depends on the transmission itself, he says. And then make it. Maybe we can get it in from. It just about will go on there. Yeah, maybe. And we have a little exhaust interference, but it will go in. It length looks all right. I'm going to send him a picture of what he thinks. I think it's fine. Just a super tight fit. This will be as far forward as it will ever be because of the rear arm. We'll swing backwards, basically. I think it'll be all right. All right, you wanna, Barb is gonna pull it out and paint it and work on those rear brakes, and then we will reconvene. I'm gonna go out and get some strap bolts for this sucker, and we'll keep on rocking. Sweet, Barb's got the drive shaft all painted up, looking legit. I am going to hit it with our signature, we're gonna lose the shop sticker. That way, if it ever explodes and winds up chasing me around the inside of the car or on the side of the drag strip, we'll get to make jokes about it, that we lost the shop. Anything here? You're right there. What's the weight of a sticker going to do to the balance of this bad boy, you think?
I don't know.
Not much.
I don't think anything.
Not much. All right, coming back in. Sweet job painting this sucker up. I trimmed a little bit of the counter bore off of the yoke in the hopes that it would do exactly that.
My eye peepers say that it did.
Yeah, it sure did. I talked to the guys at Hartman, and they said 727s can be a little wonky. There's a really long counter bore in the yoke. You can trim it off, and we did that. I think it's going to make this quite a bit easier to, stick into place. Perfect. We've got the strap bolts. We're good to go.
The box right there.
Oh, I didn't mention Barb came in, finished up these lovely little hard lines with a little tab. We are using that W or D100 series truck line from the late 70s into 1981. Turned out awesome, and he's got the line run front to back. So the brake system, all the lines, hoses, everything are installed. The last thing we need to do before we can bleed it, believe it or not, if you're running this 78 and up GM metric caliper with the integrated handbrake, you want to make sure you get parking brake cables. You can bleed it without them, but you won't get a pedal without them. I did it on my Demon. I couldn't understand why they kept going to the floor. More or less, you have to have just enough tension on those. I think that they pre-seat the piston and they get it close enough so that, when you hit the brakes, it actually works. If you do it,
mechanical residual pressure valve.
something like that. Yeah, it's basically like we got them close, and then your foot does the rest. But if you don't have them adjusted so when you pull on that handbrake, it actually grabs them, you just won't get pedal pressure, and it'll make you insane until you figure that out. So if it ever happens to you, remember this moment. This is going to be a spin
Teaching
situation.
moment brought to you by Tony Angelo.
See, I'm talking about driving my own self insane. Yeah, I'm taught you by learning the hard way. This is a story of my life. Okay, great. Good. You got to kind of wiggle them in. But that looks awesome. I'm stoked, man. This car is turning out pretty wicked.
Can't wait to drive it.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't really rushed through anything. A little bit of extra attention to detail. I mean, the brake lines look sweet. The car's gonna be good. I'm excited to get it tuned. I'm excited to try to make the Caltrax work with this spring setup. This thing's gonna fly. We've got a couple things to talk about, though. If you run a 726, there's a weird, I don't know, just overall problem with the Gen 3 Hemi, depending on how you want to run it. So if you're going to run a stock intake manifold, you're going to run drive-by-wire. If you're going to run drive-by-wire, it's impossible to hook up a kick-down cable, or near impossible to do any kind of bolt-on kick-down cable for the 727 old-school transmission that we got on here. I talked to David about it. He was like, the stock intake manifolds make a lot of good power. They're a really good match for the stock cam. You should run one, and then don't be a Nancy boy and just go full mechanical valve body. And,
David who?
David Freiberger. He's like, just shift to yourself.
Yeah.
So that's an idea. Certainly we could do that. He says we can do it with the transmission in the car pretty easily. Right now we're going to run our dual plane, but we're going to come off of that drive-by-wire setup, run the Holley, that ECU we've got, and just run it drive-by cable with one of Holley's 4150s. But we'll get there in a minute. But regardless, you've got to figure that all out if you're going to run a Gen 3 Hemi in your old school car with an old school transmission. Or put a 4-speed in it. You can do that too. But I like the idea of the 727, the old Torque Flight. They work, they hold a bunch of power. just happened. Great. Awesome. All right. I'm going to have to resort to the old shop teacher Jeffrey Dahmer specs. Keep on rocking here.
The fact that you have spares just laying around within 4 seconds.
I put my glasses through a lot, so I do have a lot. I'm going to finish tightening these up, and then we are going to look at transcooler and shifter and try to get this thing spinning the tires.
So I'm going to start assembling the radiator for this thing. This is an aluminum radiator from Cold Case. It's a direct fit for a Mopar A body. The coolest thing about it
the Gen 3
is
Hemi.
that it is for a Gen 3 Hemi,
Hell
which
yeah.
is awesome. It comes with a single 16-inch fan, the shroud, the radiator, cap, the wiring, basically everything in the kit. It's awesome. So I'm going to start assembling this, and then I'm going to mount on the back side the transmission cooler, and then slide this thing in and run the cooler lines. Run the lines for the radiator, get it one step closer to firing it up.
Yes,
Fire
sir.
me up. You fired up?
Fired up, dog.
Okay.
We got a shifter and a transcooler connected, and we can run this
We're gonna
puppy
run
through the
this
gears.
puppy. Yeah.
I'm stoked.
I'm excited. All right, cool. So we've got the fan and the shroud mounted to the radiator. I'm gonna pop this thing in now, see how it fits. Tony drilled a couple of holes here and put grommets for the transcooler lines. Do this. Yikes. Is it gonna fit? Oh boy. By the skin of our teeth does that fit. Whew. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this in.
I feel good. In here, I feel a little short because there's no seats, but I feel good. Like a little kid who's about to steal his dad's car. But, you know, not really. Anyway, we've got the cold case radiator in. The fan just clears. That is an awesome little package. The goal is to get this thing running through the gears on the lift. I'm excited. I'm going to install the shifter. This is a B&M Magnum Grip Pro Stick. I'm not going to commit to mounting it to the floor right now because once the seat's back in, I think I think when the seat's in, it might be a little bit low. So we may want to do a little bit of a pedestal here so it's like right at hand. So we're just going to drill the hole for the cable on the Mopar. It's going to go through here and then loop around the side and come from the front of the torque flight to run the shifter. And then we'll get down underneath and figure out from there. So you want to hit me with a drill barb and we'll start just drilling holes. Mm-hmm. All right about here. That'll do. We'll get a grommet, screw that down at some point. For sure that's going to happen. Be perfect. Can you... I can get it in there enough to get the job done. All right. And that will live right about here.
You want to put one self-tapper in
Yeah,
there?
I'll throw a self-tapper in it just to hold it.
All right.
That'll give us something to hold on to. Let's get underneath this thing. How did it get up there? Please come back. It's above the header. It's like between the steering column and it's getting worse as I touch it. Next time, maybe there's a two-man
One
operation.
guy under, one guy. I'm not going to say the rest of that.
Hold on. All right, we're free. Watch out for the recoil. There it is.
Hallelujah. All right.
All right, okay. It's gonna sit out of our way there and then live here off the bracket. That'll be just fine. Bracket here with two spacers. 727 has this, the shifter is on top. It's a dual post. The lower collar turns the gear selector. The upper post in the middle of it is the kickdown. So it's a little bit more complicated than a GM, which has them on separate sides of the transmission. Okay, so there's a thick selector shaft for the gear selector. This goes over it, it's a D hole. You clamp this down and then on top of it is just a little D shaft and they can move independently. This changes your gears and this tells your transmission that it's party time.
Would you say that that's going to be often?
It'll be all the time, yes. Okay. We have a new, oh, you put the gear in? Mm-hmm. Barb's got the Speedo gear set up, the drive unit in there. We did rough math to get it close enough for what we need. It's mostly going to be just spinning the whole time anyway and reading 150. Not worried about it. You want this not slammed all the way down against the transmission, lift it up a 1/16 or so and tighten it down. And then, yeah, now it's ready to shift. I got to tighten this up, but you don't want it slammed down. It'll just wear away at the case. Lift up just a hair and tighten it down. It's Friday morning. We are rocking and rolling on the Dart. The shifter has been installed. All we have left to do is put on the Speedway 727 dipstick that we've got. It's like universal and adjustable. Worked for this thing great. Fill it up, fire it up, and then we're gonna run this thing through the gears. I'm pumped. Let's go. Look at it. There she goes. All right.
Beautiful.
Love it. All right, we're gonna get this thing fired up and running through the gears. We've done a ton of work this week. We did the full exhaust system, got the drive shaft connected, finished up those rear brake lines. Everything is connected. The car steers now. It's very close to a running and driving car. I wanna see it run through the gears and power these wheels to speed. We're gonna try that right now. We threw on a Holley 4150 style throttle body, got rid of that drive-by-wire setup because it's lower, and basically it's really hard to run a kick down on a 727 without a conventional style linkage. We'll talk more about that later. Right now, it's fired up. Good, good, good. Here we go. Hold on, I may have to work the throttle a little bit, it sounds like.
I have it open, yeah.
Okay, let's give it a little bit of this. See how easy that was? Yeah, keep going. There she goes. I'm gonna raise it up a little bit. Making me a little scared. Look good? She's a runner. Awesome. Sounds great through the exhaust. One more and we'll turn it off. Hell yeah. Awesome. That was killer. Sounds great through the exhaust. The intake sound is nuts. I had to like hold my ears. This thing rips. Hemi Dart coming soon. All right, that's it for this episode of Stay Tuned. I told you next time we're gonna get that Dart tuned up. Right now I'm at the Eagles Parade. We're gonna tune up ourselves. Right?